I'm just going to reach out to Evie and let her know that it's been fixed. She may have left and come back in.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I'm not really sure what happened with our tech consultants. Sorry that the meeting is getting started late. Hopefully in the future, we will have a way to start the meeting if they're not here, and record it just like is happening now, which we could do as well. But
Madam Chair,
yeah,
it
we'll
was
find
a
out what
tech
happened.
issue.
But
It was a tech issue. It wasn't that they weren't here. So I'm sorry.
okay, I would love to maybe, yeah, we can talk about it offline, maybe with the vendors about that. I'm not really sure what the tech issue was, but anyway, we're all here. I know people, it's the work day. I appreciate everybody meeting this morning. As you know, I'm overseas, and so there's like a significant time difference. So I wouldn't be able to do an evening meeting because it would be like 2 a.m. where I am right now. So thanks for making some time. I'm going to try and kind of go through things quickly. I'm not sure if we do have quorum. I don't know if Danny's joining us. I know Corinne couldn't, but I thought Tyrone and Danny were going to be here as well. I don't know if you've heard anything from them. Florence, I haven't, but we could go on. And I see Liz has joined us as well. Anyone is welcome to watch the meeting as well. Okay, so again, welcome. The reason why I wanted to have this meeting is because we do have a new executive board, some returning members, but also some new members as well. And of course, a new chair as well. So I thought it would be good for us to come together, kind of let you know what I've been doing since the election, what I'm thinking, give you some updates, get any input that you may have. And then I hope that we'll be able to meet periodically throughout the year as well, not just for cannabis like we've been doing right now. In fact, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but just to kind of, discuss board business and how we can function effectively together. So I was going to do just a little share one thing about yourself, but because we're starting late, I think we're just going to move through that piece. Those of us that are here on the meeting, I think we do all know each other. It was more for the newer board members that I wanted to do that. So I'll start with just some updates on kind of what's been happening since the election, February. Had 2 transition meetings with Florence and Marie. I thank them both for taking the time for those meetings. What we did during those meetings was look at our bylaws, our roles and duties, did some information gathering, talked about staffing, and just kind of, what it is that we want to kind of do as we move forward together. And as part of that, I've also been kind of looking at committees, looking at the composition of the committees, looking at how many meetings the committees have had, because one of the things as chair that I am going to do, and that is part of my responsibility, is to appoint people to committees, both the new members that will be coming on board. It looks like we're going to have at least 5 new board members. There were 5 vacancies. Either people didn't apply or people had resigned within the last year. So there's definitely 5 seats that will be filled with new members. We also don't know whether everyone who reapplied will be reappointed. So could be additional folks. We just don't know yet. I guess we'll find out soon. I know that the BP got, over 70 applications for Community Board 1. I think it was the second highest in Queens. So there's definitely a lot of interest in people getting involved in the community board here. So probably within the next week or 2, we should be getting more information on who our new board members are going to be. But we also want to look at where they may go, but also where current board members may want to continue serving or may want to move to another committee as well, or perhaps chair a committee if they haven't chaired a committee yet and they want that opportunity. So as part of that, we are going to be sending out a board member survey. I think normally we would send out kind of a PDF and people would print it out, I think, and send it, email it back, scan it, email it back. We're actually going to do a digital form, which I think will be easier for folks. And that way people can indicate their preferences, what they're interested in. But also, I think we can use that opportunity to ask them some other questions. One of the things that I was thinking about is, and I talked about this with Florence and Marie, was, our meetings when I first joined the board used to start at 7 o'clock. And then I think it was 2016, they just got moved to 6:30, which I don't know why they were moved, why, I don't think there was any explanation. They just moved the time. But I think one of the things would be useful is just to survey people to see where they are, not necessarily to say we're going to move the meeting time, but just to get a sense. Is that Tyrone there? We just joined. Hi, Tyrone. How are you? Sorry if you had issues getting on. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you. I'm
Good to
here.
see you. We were a little delayed getting our meeting going, but good to have you here. And welcome as our newest executive board member.
Thank you.
So as I
Appreciate
was
it.
saying, yeah, we hope to kind of, just get to know one another. But what I wanted to share with you before I kind of share to the whole board is some of the things that I've been thinking, and possibly, get your input if you had any thoughts, ideas, or just any other things that you wanted to talk about, both as continuing executive board members, but also as a new board member as well. So just to kind of summarize in a nutshell, Tyrone, I was talking about that I've had 2 transition meetings, and that also with Florence and Marie, and also we'll be sending out a board member survey to see what committees people are interested in, whether or not they might be interested in a leadership role on a committee. And I've been looking at, what do the committees look like now, and how often have they been meeting? And then also, what is the support that some people may need as well? And then I was just talking about, the timing of the meetings. Does 6:30 still work for folks? That's great. For me now, at this point in my life, it doesn't matter. It could be 6:30 or 7. I know when the meeting time shifted, it definitely was hard for me as a parent with 3 kids, who are all, young. But I just wanted to get a sense of where board members at. So when the new board members come on, we'll kind of look at that. And like I said, just kind of look at what the data tells us, and whether or not we might keep the meetings as is, whether or not we might want to change. If it's evenly split, I would say we probably just keep them as is, just for consistency's sake. But that was one of the things that I want to include in the board member survey. And, I would like to see if there's anything else that you think we might want to include in that survey as well. Any information that you'd
Chair,
like other
Madam
board
Chair.
members to. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me? I have a raised hand, so I'm sorry. I just wanted to let you know, and to keep this in back of mind for all of you, when our meetings run later, we do have to be out of the Astoria World Manor by
Mhm.
9 o'clock. The
Yeah.
reason that the meetings were moved to 6:30 was because our meetings for a while there had a lot of land use items, and that gave everybody time to deliberate. So please keep that in the back of your mind as a group.
Yeah, you mentioned it before, but I thought we had to be out by 10. I thought that was the latest. So maybe let's just
No,
kind of
never
clarify
10.
that. Okay.
No, I'm 100% sure. We've been there, if you recall, where they've actually closed the lights even in the parking lot. They have
Okay.
to
All
pay
right.
their staff, and they would not have us there till 10 o'clock.
Okay. Um, all right. Well, we're still going to ask people about the times of the meetings too. And part of it is just maybe setting aside a certain time allotment for each component of the meeting that we have. Any other things that you would want us to survey board members on, besides their committees and besides timing and things like that? I didn't know if there was any other things that you thought of. Those were kind of the 2 main things.
No, those, like you said, are the main things. The only other thing I was thinking of is just to have them reassured that this is about the community, that the work that we're doing, and that everybody needs to be on, try to be on the same page, that it's we're not in no competitions with nobody, with each other. We trying to just collaborate and do the best we can and serve the community and the public, because we're the voice for them. And a lot of times, they don't have the opportunities to be in these rooms that we're in. So I just want everybody to know that we should appreciate these opportunities and do the best we can for the public. Of course, they
Thank
really
you.
need this help.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think maybe a question is, how can we collaborate better together, knowing that there are going to be parameters for what it is that we can and we can't do, but just to see what people are thinking about. And I think that that's an important point, Tyrone. That's why we're all here, and just to remind people of that, but also to say, how can we collaborate better? What might be useful to people? Again, understanding that there are guidelines and parameters for what it is that we can and can't do. Anyone else have any other thoughts? I see Danny joined us too. Welcome, Dan.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I missed a couple of first few words of this because I got thrown out a few times of the
I'm sorry.
Zoom. But so there was some talk about the hours of the meetings. What time we have to leave? What was?
Yeah,
what time
I
do we
was
have
just saying how, I know I've also just been looking at when other boards meet and when they don't. I just know from my own experience on the board, when I first started, it was 7 o'clock. Then it shifted to 6:30. Some boards meet at 7, some meet at 6:30. I just thought it might be useful to assess where people are on the board at this stage. I guess it was changed about 8 years ago, to 6:30. So again, not meaning that we're going to change it, but just actually seeing, is there a particular preference? Is it possible if it leans one way or the other? If it's not, if there's no like clear,
Mhm.
expression of a particular time, I think we would just keep things as is. But I'm just curious to see what it is for people. We want to find a way to make this as accessible to people as possible.
So
Does
the
that make
meeting that we're
sense?
at, it does. But the meeting that we're at right now is to what are
Oh,
we meeting about?
this was to bring us together. Sorry that you missed the beginning. This is to bring us together and just kind of give you an update on what's been happening since the election, transition meetings, and just kind of what I'm thinking about before I give my report at the board meeting, since you're all part of the executive board. So kind of looping
Oh.
you in.
So we are your advisory board. Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
we're
Sort of,
together,
kinda?
the executive board. Yeah. Yeah. You have a leader, you all have a leadership role on the board. So I kind of wanted to talk to you before I talk to everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other thoughts on the board member survey? I am trying to go through this quickly just because I know we were starting late. Okay, so thanks for that feedback, Tyrone. I'm gonna put a draft together. I know Florence was gonna send me the survey that we've sent in the past. So when you have a chance, Florence, if you can just email that to me, that would be great. And then I'll kind of build off of that. The other thing that I wanted to just,
Can I ask a quick question?
yes, of course.
April's coming up, and usually in April we have all the new members to the board.
Mhm.
Are we going to have a full board? Do we know that yet? Are we
I
going to
assume we're
have,
gonna have a full board.
50
Yeah.
whatever number of people?
Yeah, I had mentioned before that there are 5 vacancies that we know of, or that we, as of when I went to the borough president's office the week before last, he said that 5 people had either not reapplied or had resigned. So there were 5 known vacancies. That did not account for any vacancies that might occur if someone were not to be reappointed, right? So I didn't know that, but I knew that there were going to be at least 5 new board members for sure. So we'll get that information. I know they're making their decisions at the BP's office, but we'll be getting that information. I think the decisions, people will be informed before April 1st. So hopefully I'll also get that information at that time.
So I'm thinking that this discussion of sending out a survey should wait until the new people are on board.
Yeah, it's not going out now. I'm just kind of letting you know what's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's going to go out like right away. As soon as we have that information. The other thing I wanted to mention was, we can have a public member, or actually more than one public member on each committee. And because there are so many people who are interested in getting involved in the community board, I'd like to do kind of a formal, when I say formal, but like an actual call for public members with a short application for people as well. Because, like I said, there's a lot of interest, and even if someone can't necessarily be appointed to the community board, they can serve as a public member, which means they can attend committee meetings and they can vote at committee meetings. They don't vote at full board meetings. So that's also just another thing, thinking about, really opening up and being accessible to our community and engaging as many people as makes sense, is something that I think is important to me and hopefully important to all of us, right? To kind of maximize community involvement. So
I have
that is
something to
another
say.
piece that's going to be happening as well. I think in the past, if people were interested, they might have sent their resume and why they're interested. I'd like to kind of have something that's a little more standard. We can kind of track what's coming in and actually just put up an official call out so people know. I see, Dan, you have your hand up.
Yeah. So people have applied for membership, and for whatever reason, maybe, all right, so we had 5 openings, so 10 people applied or 15 people applied,
Over
and they
70.
couldn't get in. Well,
Over 70 applied.
all right, so I think those folks are the ones that we should, if you're going to send a questionnaire or whatever, those folks are the ones should be targeted immediately because they're already expressed an interest.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Yeah,
have
definitely.
we have a list already.
We'd have to work with the BP on getting that list. So I
Mhm.
don't think we get the list of all the people who applied and their contact information. But also some people might not have applied for the community board because they couldn't make, the full board commitment, but there might be people who didn't apply for the full board, but they're like, oh, I could be a public member because, I would focus more on committee work, right? So, but I think that's a really good
Sure.
suggestion.
But if we already
And I
have
think we could
70, yeah.
yeah, no, for sure. So thanks for that suggestion. I definitely think that can be part of the outreach process as well. The other thing that I just I don't know, kind of like I'm talking. So raise your hand if you want to ask any questions or make any comments. The other thing that I kind of wanted to mention is that I want to find ways to train and support board members so they can feel more comfortable in their roles. Rod, who is our parliamentarian and the head of our, parliamentary and legal and legislative committee, has agreed to do kind of a Zoom training for all board members. Anyone who wants to come, I want to encourage as many people as possible to talk about parliamentary procedure. Everything from making a motion to what happens when someone wants to table something, kind of all those little bits and pieces that so that we're kind of all clear and people feel comfortable. I hope to see kind of more people on the board participating. I think there's some folks who I've never heard say anything at a board meeting. I don't know if it's because they're not sure when they should speak up. I'm not sure. Like, I really don't know, but I think part of this is just encouraging people to become more comfortable with the procedures and understanding what it is and to knowing that, they are encouraged to participate in the discussions that we have and in the governance of the board. Tyrone, you have your hand up.
Yes, because that was something I wanted to mention as well, but we was talking on the topic of the survey, but I wanted to have someone definitely give me like the tools and have the proper information so that I can do my job as effectively as possible. Because I was figuring like, once someone comes in new, the person that was head with them or someone that's familiar with the position would sit down and give them, the basic insight on how they're supposed to conduct the position. And, that's something that I'm very interested in, someone giving me some schooling on this so I can do it to the best of my ability.
Awesome. As Sergeant in Arms or as a board member or both?
As Sergeant of Arms.
Right. Well, Tom was our Sergeant in Arms, right? So I think you two could have a chat, if you would. Tyrone, you seem to be kind of getting right into it. You seem to be doing a fine job at the last meeting. It was very smooth. But I think even possibly at the next meeting too, maybe you two could meet a little bit beforehand in case you wanted to ask him some questions, and he could offer that as well. But I think when you ran for Sergeant at Arms, the description was read to you, and I can certainly send you what is in our bylaws in terms of what the Sergeant at Arms does for the board. But like I said, you were timekeeping, you were helping to make sure we got attendance, all those things. I thought you did really well at your first meeting. But Tom and Tyrone, maybe right before the next meeting, the two of you can connect a few minutes earlier than that.
I'll give them the 411 and everything.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All
right.
right. Thank you, buddy.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
Dan, you have your hand up again. What's up?
Yes, I do. since we mentioned the last meeting. The issue of the YouTube and the sound and all that, has that been resolved so that next week we have a smooth smooth YouTube
I
operation?
I did write to Florence about it. She said she had talked to them. I know that they're on right now. So I'll just, for full transparency, I think there were, we want to make sure that our board meetings, the audio works well so that people who are watching on YouTube can hear it. There have been some sound issues last meeting, and I think there were some a couple meetings before. So we just hope that kind of going forward, we're not going to experience those glitches, because when we're in the meeting, we don't necessarily know that people that are watching on YouTube can't hear, but there were large chunks of audio that were missing. So, we can follow up after the meeting with them, or, Florence, you can touch base with them again, but we
I
do want to be
did. I did.
reassured. Yeah,
Mhm.
but we do want to
It
be,
was human error. They described it as human error. Our board did not only have this issue, another board had this issue. They're hiring new staff, and I'm guessing as the training was occurring, human error occurred. It was, obviously, as we all know, not intentional. And tech is not perfect, just as what happened today. Sometimes the internet server doesn't cooperate, or the provider doesn't let you get on. And these things do occasionally occur. For the most
okay,
part,
I think
everything has been
Mm.
seamless, but
I think that,
these things do occur.
My
okay, there's
concern is
just,
about that there was no local copy made, so there wasn't a backup.
That was
right, and
because
I
it was
did
a
put
new
that in my
trainee.
email to, I did
Yes,
put that in my email to Florence.
that was the human error part, Dan, was a new trainee being onboarded, and unfortunately, it was a human error. And they're not charging us for the last meeting, which I did note to the chair of the board.
Mhm.
Okay, so our hope that this issue will be addressed has been expressed several times. Thanks for Florence for talking to them. But yeah, we definitely want to make sure that things go smoothly, because it's no fun when you're either trying to watch the meeting after, or as you're watching it, if you're a member of the public, to not be able to hear the discussion that's going on. Thanks, Dan, for bringing that up. Tom?
Welcome.
Since we evaluate it, I want to bring up something dear to me. Time management. I know we all have to meet, we have to all have our opinions said, but we seem to, always go into overtime. After my 9 o'clock, we have 2 hours. We've got to find a way to keep the meeting moving. That's spending, I know please will let everyone speak and tell the meeting, but we can't have everyone talking about everything all the time. Because it makes the meeting, and then people leave, and then we don't have a quorum. So I think we need to have a more um, regimented meeting.
Okay, so I had one meeting. Hope it didn't go
No, no,
on
no,
too
no.
long.
Just
But I'll
saying,
look, I'm going to keep that in mind going forward. And I think part of it is also, particularly for land use items, that Liz writes up very detailed reports. So I want to really, emphasize the fact that people should read those reports before they come to the full board meeting, because something that they might be curious about might be explained in that. If they need clarification, that's one thing. But if people haven't read the report, that's why we have committee work, right? So that we're not taking up time during the board meeting to kind of, replicate what's been discussed in the committee meeting. And like I said, Liz writes amazing, very detailed reports on what was discussed, what the issues were. And so that is going to be part of it, right? That people read that. And then also, emphasizing to folks, sometimes you step up to speak and sometimes you got to step back, right? So it's the wait rule. Why am I talking? Figure out, like, why are you talking? You know what I mean? So we'll do the best. And, I can be guilty of it too. I like to ask a lot of questions. But to make sure that, number one, we're kind of sharing the mic, and everyone has a chance to ask their question. But also to make sure that we're kind of, reading the reports, listening to what's being said, and really not just, asking questions for the sake of questions, which I think people do ask thoughtful questions. So part of it,
no,
Tom, sometimes we are going to go long on meetings, particularly if
no,
it's like,
no,
some
no, I
land
know
use
that,
item.
but
Yeah, yeah.
we have to be efficient. We have a meeting, we're summarizing, we're not just dissecting everything again, going through again, everyone asking the same question to
Right.
answer during the presentation.
Yeah.
Same with the elected officials. You know, we can't accommodate everybody for ever all the time. That's
Yeah,
one thing
I appreciate that the reps from the elected officials they're coming to our meetings, which I think is great. Florence, I think it would be good. I don't know if they have a time limit now, but I think it would be good if we
Through the
had
chair,
time.
Madam Chair, in the old days, the reps would come in, the chair of the board would announce rep, they would stand up, they would put their hand up in the air, hello, 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 and they would sit back down. There were no extended reports. We give them 2 minutes now, and we require that they give their reports to us in writing. This way, if anybody comes into the office or calls for their reports, it is available to the public. However, what has happened is the board itself is spending a good half hour on elected officials in most cases. Sometimes you can a little less, you can get it down to 20, but you may want to consider giving them 1 minute instead of 2 minutes, or going back to the old way of not having them speak at all, because technically they have their town halls and their own meetings. So,
Okay,
you
I mean,
know,
that's
the public is supposed to call their office.
right. Well, okay. I think they were definitely talking longer that they've been definitely talking longer than 2 minutes. So I didn't know what's been told to them, but we can, Tyrone, for the next meeting, can keep them to 2 minutes as well. And we can let them know, now that I know that they've been given that directive for a 2-minute report before they start, at least for this next meeting, I can say you have 2 minutes, right? And then when your time is up, we are going to ask you to wrap up and hand it over to the next person. And also, if there isn't anything that's particularly urgent, they can also just not report out, but they're also there to listen. I'd actually like to get more people from the public up and talking about their concerns if they're there. So yeah, okay, let's see what happens the next meeting. But yeah, if it's if they're
Through the
told 2
chair,
minutes,
Madam
then we can
Chair.
keep to that. Other people have their hand up, so I want to go to Marie. Go ahead, Marie.
Okay, I will say that Tom and I have had that discussion many times. Normally not the reps who read from a script. It's the elected officials who are, when they are there themselves. So may I suggest, when they do call the office, if they want to do a formal presentation, they should state it as such. Perhaps not come during the elected, if they have something of substantial to say, come before we start the presentations. And this will not happen too often.
Right.
So that's my take on that. I also have a take on all the questions that are asked of land use. To your point, they have a report. They should all be told to read it. And as Tom and I have discussed this many times, the members of the land use committee who were at the land use committee shouldn't certainly be asking these questions all over again because it's in the report. And that's my take on it.
Thank you. Tom and
Amen.
then Dan.
I got a little bit.
You have your hand up, Tom, or no? Was that
No,
just
I'm
from
just
before?
trying to figure out how to lower it.
Okay, no problem. Dan, did you have another point
yeah.
or question?
Yeah, I have a question. Well, 2 comments. So if the elected officials have those documents available for the office, why not put them in, give them out to the board members so they have them in writing, and they could truncate their verbal presentation since everybody has a copy of the full presentation. And the other thing is, if somebody was in a committee meeting, okay, they know about it, but there may be, sometimes people ask questions not for the answer, but to allow the rest of the board to hear the answer, if you know what I mean.
I understand that totally. I totally understand. I'm talking more about, folks who just really haven't read the report where the answer is there. But yeah,
Well,
if someone wants to highlight
that's a whole
something,
other thing. Yeah, I agree
I
with you.
understand that. I think probably some of the reps probably don't get their reports into Florence at some time, and then they'd have to be copied. But I think let's just keep them to a time limit, and also, you know, let's see how it goes this next round, and then, you know, we don't have to set everything up for now. Like, we can kind of see how things go and make
One of the
adjustments.
things that Vinnie Donato used to do is when there were people in the of the public in the audience making a statement about something, and it got 100 people, 200 people, or something, and just tremendous number of people. But everybody's basically saying the same thing. Then he would say, how many people want to say this, and then maybe 10 people raise their hand, and then you can say, okay, well then you don't all have to say the same thing.
Yeah, I remember a couple cases where that happened. I remember one where maybe the hands that he saw were different than the hands that I saw. But anyway, yes, that can also be if there's something particularly, that a lot of people want to talk about to get a pulse if the time is an issue. I do like to give, if people are showing up, the opportunity to speak. They're taking their time up. That is their right. That's what we're supposed to do. But certainly if we're running, out of time and we have to be out of there, that's a strategy that we can take as well.
Okay. That was something, as I came in, that was being discussed as to what time we had to leave Astoria Manor. Is there a time?
Florence said 9. I thought it was 10. So I'd actually really like a firm confirmation.
I agree with Florence.
It's a firm confirmation. It's 9. It's never been 10. Again, they've shut the lights off on us, including in the parking lot. It's absolutely 9. When we go 9:15, it's a courtesy if they let us go over a few minutes. It's always been 9.
So our rental agreement says till 9 o'clock?
It's always been
We
9.
do not have a rental agreement with them. We use it as a courtesy.
Okay. All right. The other thing that I just wanted to let you know about in terms of training and support is that when we do have our committee chairs set, because there may be some people who continue in their role as a committee chair, there might be some new committee members, is to have a meeting with those committee chairs to kind of go over expectations, protocols, procedures, and for them to know that if there are any issues that they should reach out to me as well, right? So that is part of my role, is to support the committee chairs. Florence will help with scheduling, logistics, all that. But I, want to make clear that I'm here to support them if they're not sure what they should do as a committee chair, that I am here to kind of help them. So I do want to have a meeting with those committee chairs once we're kind of all set, once we've kind of looked at what committees people are going to be on, who the chairs are, all that kind of stuff, just so that everyone is kind of clear on what I'd like to see in terms of committee engagement and meetings, and then just also knowing how to go about arranging their meetings and all that stuff. So, speaking of committees, I know that the executive board has basically been reviewing all the cannabis applications. I know because they kind of just came in, and it was a lot that kind of came through. Everyone has been really great about attending all those meetings. I don't know if those are slowing down now. It seems like we didn't have a meeting this month for any cannabis applications. I don't know if there'll be any, I know they're kind of doing rounds on the state level in terms of awarding of licenses, but, we could continue to review those applications as an executive board, or possibly form a new committee or a subcommittee under something like consumer affairs. I know that on some boards, they've put it under consumer affairs. On some boards, it's a separate committee. I imagine there are other boards where the executive board is reviewing them as well. I didn't know if anyone had any initial thoughts on that, but I just figured I would kind of put that out there. Okay, Tom, and then Dan.
One thing I think about, let's review the number of committees we have. I mean, we seem to have excessive committees that really don't have any duties that other ones that I've said to me more often. Maybe we consolidate some of those.
Yes, I've been thinking about that as well. I have. That's a good point. Yep. Dan, and then Amy.
Yeah, our role in the cannabis applications, I think I need to clarify, because my understanding of it is that our job is to help them do their application, basically, are all the I's dotted and T's crossed. Not that we deny an application, because the applications don't go to us; they ultimately go to the state. Is that correct?
We don't help
No.
them do their applications. They complete their applications without us. We're not supposed to be helping people do their applications.
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. The 30-day notice that comes into the office, we help them to make sure they provide us all the information. We're here to be assured that this office receives a 30-day notice of them opening a business. We're not really here to approve their business, nor are we really here to approve a liquor license business. Their mandate by the state is to notify us they're going to have intent to open a business, and we ask for information that we require, and we have to make sure that we get that. After that, even if we don't like the application, the choice of yes for the business or no for the business is from the state. It is not
Of course
from
it
us.
is. It's just like with liquor licenses where if we have an opinion on it, we issue our opinion. We are advisory in that. But I don't think it's our job to fill out that application for people.
In
That
a
is,
sense, the offices, yes, or the board offices,
Okay,
when we get an
well-
application, so you know, when we get the application, if number 5 isn't filled out or if they leave it blank, we call them, we chase them down, and they do fill it. And your committee should know that.
okay, they fill it out. We are not providing a
We
service, filling out
we
applications
proof
for
it.
people. I just want to be clear. I just want
We
to be
don't
clear.
write
We're
on
not
it,
providing
no.
a service helping people fill out their applications.
We
Okay,
we
Amy.
are helping them, but we do not write on it. We correct any errors.
Amy.
Hi, I mean, this is very helpful. I do think that in a situation with a cannabis application, it would be good to have the chair of the Consumer Affairs, if not the entire committee, join in some of these conversations, because it is a similar process, right? And in terms of how they have to go to the state for the application approval or renewal or anything like that. And I think, just having a sense of the locations of all these different places, it might be helpful to have that same kind of rigor that the Consumer Affairs Committee puts, forth in their vetting of applications.
Through the
So,
chair, Amy, so you know this first year with only 3 people open in our district, it's strictly paperwork at this point. 2 years from now, when all of these have to do their renewal, everything you're saying will be straight on point. But because only 3 people are open and it's only paperwork now, it's not going to be on point yet, just so you're aware.
In other words, 3 licenses have been granted thus far. More will be granted as we're going on.
Precisely. So,
So all the
that's why
app-
I've said in my report to
Sorry.
people, please report everybody except for the 2 on Steinway and the 1 on Ditmars. People in our community need to know to go to the OCM website, and every other place is not licensed. Every other place should be reported.
I wanted to mention OCM, we are asking them to come in and do a presentation for us. Several board members had questions. Like, what is our role? What should we be doing? What's happening with the illegal shops? I think there are a lot of questions, given the licensing and just what is going to happen. So that will be happening as well. We'll be setting that up within the next couple months. Marie.
Jamie's point, I really think cannabis should have a separate committee, whether it's a subcommittee of consumer affairs, and also address the illegal operations out there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on cannabis? Okay. The last thing that I just wanted to mention is that I'm also thinking about the order of events in our meetings. We have to be there for the whole meeting as community board members. Do we need to make the public wait until the very, very end before they can speak? That is something that I've been thinking about. I feel like we tried to move it at one point during my tenure on the board. But that is something that I'm kind of giving some thought to because, you know, if people come and they have a concern that they want to talk about, to wait until the very end seems, I don't know, I feel like they could come in the beginning, get that out of the way. They could stick around if they wanted to, if they want to speak on during a public hearing item, but that's something that I'm thinking about. Yes, Tom. Go ahead, Tom. Yeah.
I have a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it goes to time management.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why we moved to the rear is that there's no way, even if we have that everyone can talk. We have several public items to talk about. We have business. We have
Mm-hmm.
elected officials. We have the public at large.
Mm-hmm.
We have to set blocks of time and, you know, like a game, say, okay, 20 minutes for this, 20 minutes for that, 20 minutes for
Mm-hmm.
that, and move
Mm-hmm.
on.
Yeah.
We can't, it's really unfair, I think, to members to have them be there for 3 hours so everyone can speak. They can write a memo, they can write an email or something, share with us, but we really have to, you know, the 20 minutes are up, next, you know, just move on.
I hear
So,
you about the time management, Tom. Thank you.
I know, I'm just saying, because then the board members leave, then we don't have a quorum, you know, so it just goes, you know, we're not like a open society here. You know, it's a meeting, we have objectives, and they have to be met, and, you know, if we had 70 people gonna sit there and all want to talk for 2 minutes, that's 2 hours right there, you know, I'm just saying, so
Yeah.
let's
I've been
have
looking
it.
around to see how other meetings are going and how folks are doing it as well. But I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Again, as board members, we should be there for the whole meeting, right?
You should,
So
but
we
just
should be
think, you
there for
know,
the whole meeting.
you see people leaving because we're going into the third hour, you know,
People
and
leave at
then,
all points throughout the meeting. So, you
oh,
know,
I know, but I'm saying let's keep, like, you know, so everyone knows that to do this here, you
yeah,
have to be here on time. We have to have a quorum for the vote, move
yep,
on, you
I hear
know,
you. Yep,
and we can always move it to a committee meeting in a future date. So, just my thoughts.
thank you. Dan?
Yes, I agree with Tom in that, you know, if we had 70 people there, it would be, you know, really a long time. But it also keep in mind that this is a business meeting, and you know, the board we have discussions, we have votes, we have, you know, a lot of proceedings going on, and the public coming in to make a comment is not, I mean, there could be any number of people there. That's not a controlled number. We have a controlled number with the board. We have 50 members, 49, whatever it is. And the number of people coming in to comment could be just astronomical or nothing. And there's no way of working with that number.
Yeah,
And so
it is,
keeping it at the end of the meeting, I think,
Yeah.
is fine.
I mean, the public session is a requirement, just like the business portion of the meeting as well, right? So it's required. There might be a way to put it at the beginning if it goes on after a certain period, to say we're gonna actually now pause. We're gonna go into the business, whatever it might be. There might be, I'm gonna, again, continue to look around. I just want to be mindful of people who come to a community board meeting because they really want to raise a concern or raise an issue. They're putting their time in, maybe they're trying to, you know, again, they have to find childcare for their kid, whatever it may be. I just want to be sympathetic to the fact that I want to find ways for us to be as accessible to people who do want to participate, whether it's coming to speak during the public session, serving as a public member, whatever it may be, to do that as best we can. Last comment, Marie?
It might be a reason to keep the meeting at 6:30 and perhaps put them first, as you said, within a time limit. And let's not forget, though, they do have the opportunity to speak on a public hearing item right after the board does, if they're there for that reason.
Right, for sure, right? I think it's more the people who, like we saw at the last meeting, right, who came, who wanted to talk about, you know, something that was happening at
Right, so it might be a reason to keep the meeting at 6:30 and start with them.
Okay, and then I do want to be mindful of everyone's time because it is 10:30. So any final last comments before we wrap up?
I think it would get confusing.
Madam Chair, can I throw something out there at everybody? This is really important.
Hold on, Danny was Florence.
Oh, I
Danny
thought he was done. I didn't hear him. I didn't hear him.
I think it would get confusing to have some of the public speaking at 6:30 to say 6:30 to 6:40, and then have some others speak at 8:45. And certainly the people at 6:30 would not have heard the presentations of the evening, so they couldn't even comment on those. So they would go around and say, well, I haven't commented on that, so I'm going to get online to speak at 8:45, and they're going to end up speaking twice, or wanting to speak twice.
I'm not talking about a public hearing item. I'm talking about public session. So when we have a public hearing item, people can comment after that if they're there to speak about that. That's different than the public session, when anybody can come and speak for 2 minutes about something that they see in the neighborhood, something they want assistance with, whatever the case may be. So anyone who's there to talk about, let's say, a land use item, that will still happen during the public hearing session. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but I'm also thinking of people who are coming in to see how government works. They come in, they see a meeting, and maybe they didn't intend to talk about something, but now they've seen us vote on a subject, and they want to comment on it. And so they'll, at the end of the meeting, they'll stand, put their name in to speak on that subject. And having it at the very beginning doesn't allow them to do that. People do
anyone can, okay, we're not making any decisions now, but thanks for the input. Do you know what I mean? I think the point is that we want it for people who do want to be able to speak. How do we make that something that's accessible for them? They can stay for the rest of the meeting. They can leave. Some people might want to stay. They get into it. We don't know. We haven't made any decisions on this. I just wanted to put it out there and just get people's thoughts.
Has anybody thought that having them at the end as it is now, has anybody thought that was not working right, or something wrong with it, or?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. Yes. Otherwise, I really wouldn't bring it up. Many times. People have remarked to me. So, okay, Florence, you wanted to make one final comment?
It's very important, actually. As you all know, the board office is a service provider. We're a New York City agency. We're the original 311 before 311 existed. It's really difficult if the board members and the chair of the board and everybody are telling everybody call 311, because then what happens is the public does not follow through and call our office. If you remember, all the other chairs up to Marie used to say, please call the board office. The reason I should be the one to call 311, I need their name, I need their address, I need their phone number, I need to know why they're complaining. And a lot of times that gets lost. I'm able to go directly to the reps and help them expedite. So I will tell them call 311. And for example, we're a New York City agency. Let me finish, please. We're a New York City agency. One of our board members directed people to call a state agency. Our office wouldn't have the institutional knowledge to have the number to say, this institution is a problem to the residents of the community. If one of our own people is saying, call a state institution, because we work every day with that state institution. So please.
If someone has if a constituent has a complaint, we know that the city tracks the data. If they have a complaint about a bar, a nightclub, sanitary, whatever, I will say, call 311 to register your complaint, and then call the board office, and Florence will help you.
I'm just sharing with you. I'm sharing with you. They don't follow that.
Well, because we just heard, I don't want to, our consumer affairs chair said there's no registered complaints for this.
There was none. We met with code last night. There were none. We did not have any calls.
That person had to come there to say that. I think people need to register their complaints because that is data that we should be looking at. And if that data is never input into the system.
I do tell them, you're not following me. That woman who came to our meeting, just give me half a second, please. This is rather important.
No, it's okay.
Okay, forget it. I'm sorry. I know I'm
Yeah.
disrupting your meeting and I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks.
listening to me. Have a good day.
Okay, so it is 10:35, so I want to be mindful of people's time. I will see you next Monday, no, next Tuesday at the
Tuesday.
board meeting. I'll be back in the States. Any questions, any other thoughts that you had from today's meeting, feel free to shoot me an email. Everyone should have it. I asked Florence to send it out to all the board members. I know that that went out. Marie, final point or question?
A final point under new business. I don't know if Florence went
Oh,
off the
yes, go
call.
ahead. New business. What, do you want to bring
As
something up?
as you know, there's a vacant position on the board, and to let everybody know that Florence did put an ad in the paper for that position. I don't know if we've gotten any applications yet.
You mean not on the board, for the?
On staff.
I'm sorry, I apologize, for the office.
Oh,
There's a vacant position in the office.
Yeah, so that's been posted. Do you have any, Marie was asking whether we've gotten any applications. Have we gotten anything yet, Florence? Do you know?
No
Oh,
formal applications. I did receive an application from LaGuardia Community College for an intern, for a free unpaid intern, which we were looking for. I received 2 applications there. 1 week ago, the ad went in the Queen's Gazette. This week, it just went into the Astoria Post. It is a part-time hourly position for a receptionist, and that's where we are right now. So I am fielding volunteers from community colleges and other universities. And I am waiting to see, because it just went out. Usually an ad will take at least a month before you get any real hits. So we'll
Okay,
see.
so, right, so we said we'd give it a couple weeks and then we
It's
might
got to
need
be
to
at
do
least a month,
wider
Evie. My
push.
background is marketing. Thank you.
I understand, but we're in the
Thank you,
digital
Pam.
age too. So we also want to kind of get it out there, but if you could send it to the board so they could maybe forward it also to people.
Ma'am, they're not allowed to. Board members are not allowed to have friends and family apply. It's a
That's
conflict.
not what I said.
And
That's not what I said.
Madam
I didn't
Chair,
say,
Madam Chair, it is online. The Astoria Post and the Queen's Post are online, as well as the Gazette. The 3 are online. And there are 2 printed papers, the Courier and the Queen's Gazette. So it's online in 3 different areas. And it is also in 2 printed mediums.
okay,
Thank you,
well, I
ma'am.
encourage everybody to find those postings in the Queen's Gazette. And if you want to just put it out there and share it out, because I'm not sure how many people are actually going to see that ad, but we'll see what happens in the next week or so if we get
For
any
the chair,
applications.
this is how we've always hired. So
I
I appreciate your
understand.
time. Thank you. Thank you very
I
much.
understand, but you know, we also want people to see the ad and encourage a diverse group of candidates to apply, and that's by putting it out there. Okay, any other questions, thoughts? Thanks for making the time. I realize, again, this was during the workday, so appreciate that. Again, reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Evie.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Evie. And I want to thank Tom Ryan. I don't think he's ever been up at this hour.
I appreciate that, Tom. I know you're not an early bird. I guess we need a motion to adjourn, I guess.
Motion to adjourn.
Hold on,
Second.
discussion.
Okay, go ahead, Tom.
You want
Sorry.
to discuss?
You never want to discuss motioning to adjourn.
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing. I'd like to see at the beginning of each month, one email for the meetings of the month. I'm getting inundated with too many emails. We're having a meeting, we're not having a meeting, it's delayed, it's this, it's that. Let's have schedule. So I know what the scheduled meetings are for the month at the first day, and I can plan accordingly. So I like to see just a calendar of what's going on for the month.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I imagine sometimes meetings are scheduled after the month started within that same
they
month,
can
but I
do, but
hear what you're
look,
saying.
for
I
the
hear what
first
you're
of the
saying.
month, we should know what meetings we have for the month. I can't,
Got it.
so I like to see that.
Okay.
It's all on
Thanks.
the website. It's listed consistently. We're all on the website.
Okay,
on
I
the
think what
calendar
Tom is
page.
saying is if one email can go out with all the dates that are known for that month, since you're sending out emails anyway.
I'll copy the website and send it out.
Great. I think that would
Just
totally.
make a calendar, please.
All right. Okay, so now motion to
You got it?
adjourn? Yeah,
Second.
second, okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you,
Enjoy your,
everybody. All right, have a good day and see you next Tuesday.
You too. Bye.
All right, take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care.